made it to the middle of the week.
We did.
Let's do this. You are ready. You are suited and booted, ready to go.
Yes. As we say in Minnesota, nope.
Right. Nope. There we go. Thank you so much for joining us for KARE 11 News at noon. We have a lot of developing stories to catch you up on. You know, right now, the big story, the California wildfires are getting more destructive. Just hours ago, we did learn there are at least 2 confirmed deaths and even more significant injuries.
Yeah, really, the images from the West Coast are absolutely devastating. This is a live look now at the smokes just billowing from one of 4 fires burning out of control. I'll have an update on the conditions in just a minute. First, though, let's get a quick check of the forecast.
Okay, well, back at home here, a different scene. We're expecting that light snow now tomorrow. Again, it looks pretty light. We're looking at a dusting of snow Thursday afternoon, but we have a better chance of snow, I think, Sunday morning. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. So a couple of little systems coming in here. And how about a mild end to the week? That means, well, January 20s, upper 20s, but that'll be nice. 13 out there now. It's been a cold morning, another cold one. The winds have shifted. The first time we've seen a south wind in the past 8 days. So that also indicates a little change, and that's why we have up chances for snow. Still 8 in Bemidji, 13 in Brainerd, 14 degrees right now in Wilmer, 16 in Mankato. Yeah, we still have a wind chill, keeping us around 0. It's pretty clear out there, though, and that's what's nice about the cool weather. It is ironic that as soon as you turn on the south wind, here come the clouds. You can see them in Fargo. But again, a couple of things going on here. You got that big low pressure center down towards Dallas, Winnipeg. We got our clouds, so we'll track that system, what that means for the south and what it means for us in your forecast coming up.
John, thank you. Let's go ahead and get back to the live coverage here in Southern California, where the governor has declared a state of emergency. Powerful Santa Ana winds are fueling the flames that are coming and claiming homes and threatening lives. I know Cece has been monitoring all of today's developments in our top story.
Yeah, you know, within the last couple of hours, it's been confirmed that there are now 4 fires burning in Los Angeles County. The newest one is the Woodley fire that ignited early this morning. The other 3 here we're seeing is the Palisades fire, Hearst fire, and Eaton fire. Right now, thousands are under evacuation orders and warnings. So let's just take a closer look at these fires. Fire officials say the Palisades fire has burned well over 5,000 acres and is still growing at 0% contained. An estimated 1,000 structures have been destroyed in that fire, but we're told there are no reported fatalities. There have, however, been significant injuries to residents who didn't evacuate, and also to first responders on the fire line. Meanwhile, 2 people have been killed in the Eaton fire and many more have been injured. That fire has burned over 2,200 acres and continues to grow too at 0% contained. Over 100 structures there have been destroyed. And we're told the Hearst fire has grown to more than 500 acres. More than 3,000 residents have been ordered to evacuate the area where that fire is. And this afternoon, LA County Fire has requested aid from other counties and states. As we speak, first responders are on the way from Nevada, Oregon, and Washington State. Now, this is a very dangerous fight for crews out there, in large part because of the wind. Officials saying they're dealing with strong hurricane force winds. We're told all residents of Los Angeles County aren't out of danger just yet, but officials say their top priority is protecting lives and property.
Cece, thank you so much. Constant updates coming in. We'll be sure to check back in with you. Well, now to another big story that we're tracking. 2 South Minneapolis homeless encampments that went up in flames earlier this week are now cleared out. City officials estimate more than 200 people now declared displaced. Crews at the scene reported hearing propane tanks exploding on Monday. It's renewing concerns about the safety of those both in the encampments and those who live nearby. Minneapolis fire officials say that they're expecting to see more fires the coming weeks.
We understand within the Minneapolis Fire Department and have empathy that they are out in this environment. It's extremely cold and they do need to stay warm.
Well, Monday's fires happened in the 9th Ward. The city councilor representing that area believes the encampment issue is tied to Minneapolis's lack of shelters for people struggling with addiction. Well, more than 24 new recruits are joining the Minneapolis Police Department, and this comes as the MPD gets ready to enact sweeping reforms. Here's what we know.
The Minneapolis Police Department just welcomed its biggest singular group of new hires in 5 years. Chief Brian O'Hara says the 32 cadets and community service officers are also the most diverse group of new hires in the department's history. Their welcoming ceremony last night came just a day after the city and U.S. Department of Justice reached an agreement on a consent decree, a legal document outlining sweeping changes for Minneapolis police after a federal investigation accused the department of a pattern of discrimination, using excessive force, and violating people's constitutional rights. In recent years, Minneapolis police has struggled with attracting and retaining officers. Chief O'Hara says since 2020, more than 500 officers have left the department.
We're looking live at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda, where today people are paying their respects to former President Jimmy Carter. He'll be buried tomorrow afternoon back at his home in Georgia after a funeral service at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Here's NBC's Chris Pallone with more.
In Washington, people are pausing to reflect on the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter.
James Earl Carter Jr. loved our country. He lived his faith. He served the people. And he left the world better than he found it.
In a ceremony bringing together leaders and dignitaries with the Carter family, the Capitol welcomed the 39th president back to Washington, remembering Carter as a man who performed a lifetime of selfless service after his one term in the White House.
The longest post-presidency of any American president ever, he focused on making the lives of his fellow men better.
The late president's final journey began Tuesday at the Carter Center in Atlanta, the base for his post-presidency charitable work. His flag-draped coffin loaded onto a presidential aircraft designated Special Air Mission 39 for the trek to Washington. Carter's path through the Capitol reflecting the path of his life, a stop at the U.S. Navy Memorial, which he authorized in 1980, acknowledging the former president's time at the Naval Academy and service as a submarine engineer. A horse-drawn caisson traveled the streets where Carter began a modern-day tradition of walking in the inaugural parade. Then at the Capitol, a solemn ceremony steeped in enduring American traditions, a stop at the place where nearly 50 years ago a humble peanut farmer raised his hand and became a world leader. Chris Pallone, NBC News, Washington.
Well, with just 2 days until his sentencing in his hush money case, President-elect Donald Trump is asking the Supreme Court to push back the hearing. New York courts have rejected that request twice. Trump is convicted of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The current sentencing date is just more than a week from Inauguration Day. Well, even before his inauguration, Trump is ruffling some feathers in Canada, calling it the 51st state. Today, we're hearing the response from Ontario's premier about how far-fetched the idea is.
You know something, to the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, you know, it's not realistic.
So we're going to be
Trump is also outlining an
changing the
aggressive
name of the
foreign
Gulf of-
policy, including taking control of the Panama Canal and Greenland. He also floated a controversial idea to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, preparations are underway in Minneapolis ahead of next week's special election to fill a vacancy in Senate District 60. Well, today, the city's elections and voter services are testing select voting machines, confirming that they can tabulate correctly. Governor Tim Walz called for the special election after the death of DFL Senator Kari Dietzick last month. Voters who live in northeast Minneapolis, Cedar Riverside, and the University of Minnesota area can vote. You can find your polling place on the Secretary of State's website.
Today, we're getting a better look at the changes coming to Facebook and Instagram. As we reported, CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced Meta will be getting rid of fact checkers, saying it stifles free speech. Jessica Hart spoke with a media ethics and law professor who explains what else could be behind the move.
In the Meta world, fact checking is out. Community notes are in.
This is like the umpteenth reset in terms of what's happening with social media in this country.
Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. The company started fact-checking on Facebook in 2016.
I am not surprised to think that this is being done in large part to try to dissuade President Trump's administration from taking any action against Meta.
Jane Kirtley, a University of Minnesota media ethics and law professor, says she thinks Mark Zuckerberg, Meta CEO, is doing this to avoid regulations.
It isn't so much content regulation under our current law. It's more a question of whether the Trump administration would use things like antitrust laws to try to affect his business model, that is Mr. Zuckerberg's business model.
Essentially, Kirtley says Facebook and Instagram will become a free-for-all.
So my biggest concern is that without any kind of objective fact-checking, we're going to be faced with a lot of misinformation and disinformation with nothing to counter it. I think even worse is that oligarchs that control social media are going to be the ones who will decide what is true and what is false.
What's true and what's false will be up for debate in a world where community notes are in and fact-checking is out.
I personally think this is a terrible situation, very, very dangerous for us as a society.
Kirtley also says the question of how useful the fact-checking function was is up for debate. Meanwhile, a group representing cookware makers is suing over Minnesota's new PFAS ban. The Cookware Sustainability Alliance says the new law is unconstitutional. The suit says the chemicals banned in Minnesota were deemed safe by the FDA. The alliance claims the new law burdens out of state companies making nonstick pots and pans. At least 25 other states have similar PFAS bans, but Minnesota's is considered the most strict nationwide. And another Grand Avenue business will be closing its doors. St. Paul boutique Poppy plans to shut down by Thursday, January 30th. The owner, Jill Henderson, cited the difficulties of being a small business on Grand Avenue and said she wanted to enjoy more time with her teenagers and parents.